We can just have everyone's attention for a moment, please. We can get you to please take out your handheld, cell phones, personal devices. They have to be on silent, they can't be on vibrate, or any other mode other than turned down. So they cannot be silent, they cannot be on vibrate, it has to be turned down. If you are speaking this evening, we ask that you please sign in. We also ask that you please direct your comments, questions, and concerns to this board. Speak into the microphone and so that we can all hear what you're saying. And as always, we're going to be courteous to one another. If you do need to discuss any matters with one another, please take it in the hallway. It interferes with our opportunity to hear those who are speaking. We're going to start first by opening the meeting for this evening. Motion to open?
I make a motion that we open the meeting of the Board of Architecture Review and Historic Preservation on October 13th, 2015.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome to the October 13th, 2015 meeting of the Architectural Board of Review and Historic Preservation. My name is Curtis Highsmith, and I am your chair. I'd like to introduce our panel for this evening. I see that Brian Brady has made it, but we also like to welcome Esther Pastor, Christina Redding, Jeff Brodlieb. Zach Studenroff, our historic consultant, will not be here this evening, but we'd like to welcome our legal counsel, Bill Robinson. As always, Antoinette, Charlie as well, welcome. We're going to start this evening's meeting with signs and first and only application for sign this evening.
Stephen Wang and Associates, an architect sign.
Is the applicant present? Applicant's proposing an architect sign, looks to be black and white. Simple font, name of the company, architects. There is address, telephone number, fax number, and website. Board members, do you have an issue with the sign?
I don't have an issue. It looks like a business card, actually, but there's a lot of information on the bottom that should probably be cleaned up.
Technically, normally what we do is we try to keep it minimum to the name of the company, a telephone number, or an email address. There's a phone number, there's a fax number, a website. There's a pretty busy sign, but do you feel that it's out of taste or out of character for the community?
No.
No. Steve?
I agree.
Same comments.
Board have no issue with the sign. Stated public comment on the application. Motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve the architect sign for Stephen Wang and Associates.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Concludes our sign permits for this evening. First application, historic.
Mr. Chairman, the Farnos application, 241 Hill Street, and Pamela Michaelchuk, we have no decision on that this evening due to the other ones, but there is a decision for the Bathing Corporation.
Okay.
An affirmative vote on that would be to approve the application as submitted.
Okay, that would be
Number 5.
number 5. So we'll move on to there. So far, you do
1,
not
3,
have
and 4. 1,
applicant
3,
1
4.
and
3 and 4.
3 and 4. Okay, application number 2 for Elm Hill Inc. LLC, 1 Gin Lane. Is the applicant present?
Mark Cirillo, AutoGate Systems.
Proposing a driveway gate?
Yes.
Color of the gate, white?
Yes.
Are they aluminum or iron?
Aluminum.
What's the spacing between the pickets?
4-inch spacing between,
And total transparency? You know, the percentage of transparency?
about 65%.
Will there be any lanterns or any illumination
No.
from the sign? And the pillars are wood?
They are white Versatiles with lead-coated copper caps.
Board members, any questions for Brian?
No, I think it's appropriate.
It's beautiful.
Christine?
I have no
Jeff?
question.
Fine.
Any public comment on the application? Thank you for adhering to some of the suggestions of the board. Seems that you paid attention with regards to the transparency and as well as the,
Okay. Thank you.
sir, unfortunately, the application is located in the historic district.
Yeah.
I know it's a simple application, seems you have the approval of this board. Therefore, we will close for a written decision by council. We'll empower our council to prepare that at our next meeting. Any
Yeah.
questions?
No.
Motion to close the application for written decision.
I make a motion that we close the application of Elm Street LLC for the driveway gates for written decision by our council.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bathing Corp., Southampton. Council?
In the file is a decision approving the application as submitted. Affirmative vote on the application will be to approve it.
Motion to approve written decision by council for Bathing Corp. of Southampton,
Gary.
14 Gin Lane.
I make a motion that we approve the written decision by our council for the Bathing Corporation of Southampton, 14 Gin Lane.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Concludes our historic applications for this evening. First application, non-historic.
First application is Village of Southampton.
Richard Stott Architecture, 13 Main Street, Southampton, architect for the ambulance center. Last time we were here, I gave you a little video presentation, and you asked to come back with material samples, so I'm back. I'm showing you, I have the materials for all the exterior. These are roofing tiles. And we plan to use these three colors at random, these random slates. The upper walls, the lower walls will be cultured stone like the police building. I don't have any samples of that to show you. I think everyone knows what it looks like. So that's the lower walls. The upper walls are gray stucco. The trims around the hip roof are mahogany colored, and the window trim is gray. And that's the color palette and materials for the wood, the stucco, and the rock facing, the roof slate look-alike.
Any other samples other than, so what you're doing, proposing this afternoon is just showing us the examples of the material being used. There's no other three-dimensional, any other color rendering, anything further you're presenting before the board. It's just your sample presentation, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Jeff, any comments
Comment about the materials or the
about the application as a whole?
application. I find the design of the building not consistent with the area. And I'm a little curious, and I see the mayor here as well, and not to put anybody on the spot, but in terms of the process, the review that it went through, so perhaps you can share that with us if it's relevant. Because we're here, we're being asked now to approve something that we haven't seen. I don't know if it's gone through any architectural review or committee beforehand.
It's been through the village board. They've seen it a number of times, and we've been working with both the mayor and the village administrator on the process. They've both been involved in the project for a number of years, actually.
Right.
Last time I was here, I explained some of the history of the project. It's been considered in a number of different locations and morphed into this one as the best solution. The materials and the design I think are relevant to the village. They're civic oriented. They're not historically residential by any means. So I do think they fit in. I think last week there were some comments about this design not having any relationship to the police station, which I didn't really understand and didn't address at the time. But if there's any further questions about how it relates to the police station, I can answer those.
Well, I think there were also concerns about the basic design, the coloration, and whether, for instance, dark stone, dark mahogany is consistent with the type of materials. We usually see shingled houses, painted houses. So something that has stucco stone and dark mahogany, I think someone made the comment, looks something more like an Adirondack type of structure.
Well, I think it's more civic-oriented than Adirondack-oriented, although I guess you could make those relationships. So the civic nature of the building is the distinction that I see that makes this different from shingles and residential-style architecture. This is not a residence, and it's not pretending to be anything other than what it is, an ambulance building that's meant to serve the public.
Brian, any comments?
Yeah, I'd like to hear more about how you see the relationship to the police building, because to me, the police building doesn't seem to fit into the area as well, and that was way before I was on the board, so, that was, and then this building, it's now adding another element of something that we're concerned isn't fitting in. And with the roofing materials, like 3 different colors, I'm not sure how that relates, because if you could talk more about the police building, maybe it could
Are
pull it
those
all
small
together.
things?
They're in file, Tom.
Well, let's address the roof first. I think there are some really brilliant examples of slate roofs on residential buildings in Southampton Village. I've always liked them. I like the coloration of them. They work with almost any kind of style. And in this particular style, they're appropriate on a hip roof. I think it'll add a nice color combination to what's going on in the rest of the site. The colors are not exactly the same as the police station because I don't want to mimic that building. I want it to be distinct and different, especially with respect to the roof. I've heard a couple of comments in the past couple of weeks about the police station not fitting in. I can tell you that in the 15 years since I designed that building, the only comments I heard negative about the building is that maybe the color of the roof wasn't exactly like we were hoping that the copper roof might be, and got as close as we could. Some people don't like that roof color, but I've never heard anyone tell me that the building didn't fit into the village. In fact, I've heard quite the opposite, that it's the most attractive building in the village and so forth. So there are certainly subjective opinions about how the building fits or doesn't. The fact that the building functions well and fits into the site and performs the duties that it's supposed to do is the most important thing to me. It's appealing to most people, so that some people don't like it doesn't bother me too much.
That's good.
Anything further, Brian?
No?
Esther?
I would agree with Brian's comments and some of Jeff's comments. This is a major building in a very prominent location in the building. It is next to another very big building. I think it would be extremely helpful to have color renderings of both the buildings in context as in a streetscape so we can really get a sense of what they look like. My feeling is the 3 colors on the roof is going to be very, very busy, and I really would like to see what that's going to look like. I do appreciate you bringing the samples in. It's extremely helpful. I do think a color rendering, also showing the landscape plan, would be appropriate given the size of these 2 buildings.
Christine?
I agree. I'm having difficulty understanding the materials and the design in relationship to the police station and what's there. And I'm trying to think, wasn't there a lot of cell phone towers on the top?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Well, you were also going to come back with, I guess there was no, didn't know whether there were going to be any antenna hanging from the roof or if there were going to be excessive antenna.
Yes, last time we saw antenna in the roof, but I don't see
So
it.
there was still an open suggestion on whether you didn't know what it were or if it would
And
be
that's a
added.
fact today. I don't know exactly
Still
what the antenna needs are going to be on the building. The village is discussing a separate communications antenna off the building that would be a standalone system, so I don't know what the antenna needs are going to be. On the video I showed you last week, I showed you a single antenna on the east and west sides of both of the chimneys of the building.
Okay.
That's what I kind of expect might be there. I think at the police station, we designed that Widow's Walk because we knew there were going to be antenna needs. In that case, too, we didn't know exactly what it would be, but we knew that we would need accessibility to those things and that they would need to be maintained and serviced periodically. So that's how we worked that. And with respect to that, we've done the same thing here. We don't know exactly what those needs are going to be right now and can't design for something we don't know.
Understood. Thank you. My question would be actually to Mark. If you can, Mark. Hi.
Mark Eppley, Mayor of the Village.
I know I know what do you think? I know the board was very active in much of this development for some time now, and it seems that We've undergone a lot of constructive revisions to this plan. Colors, were they ever presented before the
Okay,
board and for the board as a whole?
We started working on the ambulance barn probably about 6 years ago,
Right before my time.
okay? So the idea was to construct and we looked at 3 different locations for ambulance. So one was rebuild where they're at on Meeting House Lane, look at using Windmill Lane where the firehouse is and converting that to an ambulance barn, or the location here. So from a strategic standpoint, and this seemed to be the best location. From a cost standpoint, basically all 3 proposals were about the same. And the idea behind this was to have a building that complemented with the police station. And so when
So
you
the
pull up-
intent of this structure was to complement or
Complement
tie in the 2 structures together. So there's some
because
symmetry.
what you've got, right, symmetry within the lot, because it's one municipal lot up there. That, so when you pulled up, you would see the police station on one side, the ambulance on the other side, and basically the materials would be similar but not exact to that, and you would know that that's a municipal area. That was what was presented to the village board. That's what the village board supported. That's what was presented to the public for a bond vote, and that's what the majority of the public voted on. That I think the only difference, I think in the couple differences between what the bond vote was. One was the access of the ambulance was going to be facing the street. It was down below. There's actually what type of tree is that?
Horse chestnut.
A horse chestnut. So I'm not an arborist, I can't tell you, but it was, they said it's a very rare tree. So forced us to relook at operations of that. So you took the doors and we moved them on the western side of the building, which actually from a functionality standpoint actually turned out to be much better, and it actually left a large open green space in front of the building, preserved the tree, and so everybody seemed to be happy with that. The roof initially was presented as a metal roof, was a blue color that was actually presented to the bond voters at that point in time. It was, but I think because of the way that the roof is designed, actually would be significantly much more costly to do that. And so Rick brought in the slate component to it, which if you go and you look at 25 Jobs Lane, which is a municipally owned building, the Parish Art Museum was there, now the Southampton Arts Center, that's a slate roof, has multiple colors on the slate roof, and so that's and it's a large structure there. So that was the idea behind the process here. I mean, technically, it's voted on by the village board. It's voted on by the bond, by the public on it. We've come in front of the different boards the same way we did with the fire department after the bond was approved, to come in and get feedback, which we've done. We went in front of the planning board to get feedback on that. The idea on the site is that it's also the location for sewage treatment plant, which is going to be up in the back part of the property, and we're exploring the potential of a tower on the property that would be able to house some cell phones and also emergency communications, because one of the major issues that we do have around here is that we do have some very dead spots when it comes to emergency communications, especially on Meadow Lane. All you have to do is go to Cooper's Beach and realize there's no phone reception, there's limited communications, and the further you go out west, the harder it is. So, so if we don't end up with the type of tower there, I would say a monopole that's a flagpole type, then there will be a need for antenna on top of the building. Just it has to have it from a functional standpoint. So
Thank you for the history, for the
Yeah.
timeline. And
Yeah, that's
some
kind of
the history
how it evolved.
Sure.
You know, and all the different players that were involved and why we ended up today. We had several different changes to the building, from the way the turret was designed to, you know, materials, but the idea was to have it complement what the police station is, and it's a little, yeah, it is a little bit different. You know, the police station is a little bit different than other buildings, but the Southampton Press is different than the police station. And you have the library, which is next to Cooper Hall, which is next to the Verizon building, which is next to La Carrezza, and the firehouse, and then you have Futterman's building on the corner. So that whole stretch, you know, I would say you have all different buildings in there. And then on the other side, you got Tuscan House, you got the Time and Again building, you've got Thorsten and his property, and the 22 Windmill Lane everybody loves to look at. So, and the bank. So I mean, there's a lot of variety of architecture. There's a lot of variety of materials there.
Would the village as well as the architect consider toning down the roof? I mean, since the design is so eclectic,
Yeah.
maybe toning down the roof would not be as piercing as one would expect in that corner of that, at least on that corridor.
I'm not an architect. I'm going to defer to Rick on this and let him look at that. So.
You have to step forward. It's,
Yeah, I'd be willing to look at different color combinations for the roof. We're looking for something that's rich and interesting rather than boring. The fact is that this is a public works
the
project.
building is not boring in itself. So, I mean, it's interesting on top of interesting, and sometimes they can clash.
Okay, but I don't want a boring roof on an interesting building, I'll put it that way. This is a public works project, and in a public works project, it's much different than any kind of private bid process. We've gone out to bid for a bond issue, and we need to stick to those numbers. So,
Well, it's still slate, it's just you're using a
well,
different color
I'm
slate.
trying to tell you that it may not even be slate. In the long run, it may end up being something different for cost issues. And that's the nature of the public bid process.
The challenge with that is we're looking at an application for its completeness, and if
I
you're telling
understand.
me that the materials are still subject to change, those changes would actually have to come back before administrative board to be reviewed.
Well, I'll have to speak to my client about that. But the fact is that we have this material specified in the specifications and on the drawings. And we've been asked by both the village and the construction managers to provide an alternate material for this roof. And I'm mentioning this because it may just be a reality that we can't afford this roof when it comes time to bid. So it may turn into an asphalt roof. I'm trying to get the best roof on this building, the best looking roof on the building that we can. So I have to consider all of the options, and you guys should know what those options are, because it may be, in the long run, that this particular roof is out of budget, and we may have to make the call to put an asphalt roof on this.
And it would be helpful for us to have samples of the asphalt roof as well
There-
as
this-
color renderings of both.
Okay, but this can extend past through all of the exterior materials, as well as some of the interior things and the amenities the building has itself. So I'm bringing this out because it's a fact and it's the truth. I don't want to
I get your-
I don't want to blindside you
Understand
guys
that. I get your
by
fact. I
telling
get-
you that this is what's
If-
going to
if
be
you
no
can hear
matter
me
what,
out.
because that may not be the case.
If you're expressing that things could change, then you coming before us really has no merit, because what we're doing here in terms of
I'm
initial-
sorry, I disagree with the fact
I
that
would
it has no
actually
merit.
disagree with you,
Okay.
because I think that the dialogue has been very helpful. Okay, I think it's important that we do this, and that we can look at some different colors of slate. Maybe instead of having 3 colors on there, maybe tone them down and have them a little bit closer. And I don't know. We can have that discussion and stuff. We can bring some ideas back here, but we have a fixed budget on a bond, and that's what we have to stick to.
Understood.
It's.
I know just as
Oh,
much
I
as
know
you
you
do how
do.
difficult
I
it
know.
is,
You live
constraints
your life
under,
around
especially
that,
under a
so,
bond
yeah.
issuance. But what we're doing as a board is we're trying to, if we could identify what these changes, and what happens, and I'm sure council will agree, even if it's the applicant is the Village of Southampton, which basically has a legislative responsibility of this board, and I would say in the matter can supersede our decision, if that's what the village wishes to do. But if we're going under a process or a procedure, and we're looking at the application as completeness, it's setting a precedent if we decide, okay, we'll approve a application contingent on various changes that may not, or possibly, or may possibly, or could happen, or it's just there's no definitive reason for the approval. My issue has always been, and I think this board will agree with me, setting the precedent. And in doing so, I'm just concerned with that. So if the village wants to,
Here's the difference.
Yes.
The difference is that we actually don't have to be in front.
exactly, that's where I'm getting at.
So we're coming in here because we value your input, and we respect the position of this board, and we want you to participate in this process. So that's the difference between us and a non-municipal applicant. So.
Okay. Any public comment on the application?
Susan?
Please step forward.
Sorry, Robert Lohman, Bowden Square. I just wanted to mention to the board, one of these very similar composite roofs was put on an office house across from Town Hall on Hampton Road about 20 years ago. And if you look at the roof today, you can barely see the differences in the colors.
Thank
And when
you.
it went on, it was all different. That's all.
Thank you.
Good evening, Susan Stevenson. I live in the village. I think any toning down would be impressive and helpful. I heard what the last man said, and that may be true, but I think it seemed quite busy. And there used to be a house up by Halsey Beach that had 3 different colors on it. Do you remember that? They knocked it down. It was asphalt. I think it was amazing, but it wasn't really good looking. So I just think some less busy approach might be a good idea if it's possible. And I can hear that you're sort of on that page too, but I don't know what you can do. So thanks for listening.
Any more public comment? Just an FYI, I just wanted on record that we really don't have any jurisdiction. That's all.
Well, we'll take the comments into
Yes.
consideration. I'll ask the architect to look at some variety on this, and then get it back to you guys and
We appreciate it
feedback
very
from this.
much.
So, okay.
Thank you. Anything further from the board?
No.
All right. Press the board to adjourn. You'll be back at the next meeting with a little more information.
We'll be back with some alternatives here. So.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Motion to approve applicant's request to adjourn until the next meeting.
I make a motion that we approve the applicant, the Village of Southampton's request to adjourn to our next meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next application, council.
In the file is an application approving the decision approving the application as amended. An affirmative vote on the motion would be to approve the application.
Quite a few pages here.
10 pages.
Motion to approve council's written decision for the application located at 475 Hill Street.
I make a motion that we approve the written decision by council for 475 Hill Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote nay. I appreciate all the changes that have been made, but I still have been consistent all along that the house is massive relative to its neighbors.
Application is
To the
closed.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Next application, please.
Metamere Partners has been adjourned to the next meeting, so we're looking at Ricky Associates.
Was it adjourned at the last meeting, or they're just
No,
requesting?
No, it's been in the file to be on the
Okay.
26th for a while.
Perfect, very good. Next application, please.
Next application is Ricky Associates, 230 Bishops. nothing new in there. So.
Good evening, my name is Tony Mirolo, represent Mickey L. Associates. Nice to see everyone again. Some of these.
What are you submitting? Are they changes to the
Yes,
original
changes
file?
from the last meeting. I also included in my submission a summary of what we spoke about in the last meeting and the changes that were made for this meeting, so a little more direction for all of us. This first page kind of summarizes the changes. And then the packet indicates what we've changed it to. So the first change we addressed, originally we talked about, or the last meeting had 3 peaks on the house. We reduced it to 2 peaks as it's shown. The ridge height of the last house was 32 feet. We reduced that to 28.6. Lot coverage, which is on the survey, we indicated, the last survey indicated 20% lot coverage. We reduced that to 17% by reducing the various structures on the property, including the house. The house mass, the last meeting was 68 feet wide, 68 feet long, 49 feet wide. We reduced that to 64, 44 respectively, which reduced the floor area to 91% from 99%. Floor area maximum. And then the carport, which was an issue regarding the roof line, we went back to the flat roof with a 24-inch railing around the carport. So hopefully that helps the committee to understand the changes, and obviously any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, seriously, thank you.
You're welcome.
Brian?
Your rendering doesn't seem to match the drawings. The drawings are showing very tight eaves when your rendering's still showing flares at the end. And the renderings are showing, like, the carport is lined up, but the rendering shows it sort of extending beyond the columns by quite a bit, same with the front entrance. So I just want to make sure, I mean, the drawings are much more successful than the rendering.
But on the drawings, the carport is, I guess, positioned back towards the back of the house.
What I'm saying, see how the railing is extending way beyond the columns on there?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And then see how your roof lines are still flaring at the top, but on the drawings they're not anymore? So,
Well, I apologize for that little discrepancy, because I didn't realize it was a meeting tonight. We rushed on Thursday to take care of this stuff. So the holiday weekend, we probably missed a couple of things, but hopefully you can see the general idea of what we're doing. And the architecturals obviously will dictate what we build.
right, okay.
Okay?
Just
So,
want to double check that.
Good point.
Anything further, Brian?
No, otherwise I think it's been cleaned up quite a bit.
Esther?
I think, first of all, I want to thank you. This is incredibly clear and concise. I think probably what happened was you just transposed the side view and rear view drawings from the original plans.
Right.
But it's really the front elevation that was what we were concerned about. I think it's a far more successful house, reducing the mass, lowering the height, and reducing the railing for the carport. It is, I have no problem with the architecture of this at this point.
Christine?
I agree with their comments.
Yeah, same here, thank you.
Elimination of the front gable, I mean, the reduction, the railing, carport, even the entrance seems to be cleaner than the initial application, especially considering we don't have all of the zigzags in the front of your house. Oversized zigzags, so I think it was successfully done. I appreciate your
thank you.
time. Any public comments on the application? Anything further of the board? Thank you for cleaning it up.
Thank you.
Seeing the opposition of the board. Is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve the application of Ricky L. Associates at 230 Bishop's Lane.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Next application, please.
Next application, Drew Schuttinger, 166 Corrigan Street.
Love your pen.
It's yours now.
Good evening, Jeremy Hubble, speaking about 166 Corrigan Street. This is our fifth appearance before the board, and I think that we've made a lot of progress over these meetings. At our last meeting, I think we got pretty good consensus concerning the architecture that's proposed, and I think you appreciated the changes we made over this process to try to work on mass. But you wanted us to, I think you felt we were very close, you wanted us to go back and take another look at mass, which we have done. Near the end of last time's meeting, Esther expressed also some concern about lot coverage. And after that meeting, I returned to the property myself and spent quite a lot of time on it the next day. And one of the things I realized was that the screening on this property, which is quite extensive, there are very tall arborvitaes really on all four sides, presenting a sort of a year, all-season screening. Whereas a real attribute of the property, when you're at the property inside the lot, it makes the lot feel smaller, somewhat smaller, even though it's about the same size as to its left and to its right. It feels, and has the same frontage, it feels a little bit tighter. And I know it's not of great, the utmost concern to you all, the backyards, but that's very important to us. And if you were to visit the homes that we've built, the backyards are a nice oasis, they're very private. The pool and everything relates very nicely to the lot and to the house. So I was concerned about, and I want to thank you for directing us there, how our backyard worked, and of course that deals with lot coverage as well. So in addition to massing, I wanted to look very carefully at that, got our architect and our builder together, and we really went back to the drawing board to try to, bring fresh eyes to this. And I'm fairly surprised by and impressed with actually the solutions that we came up to, because even at the sacrifice of reducing the house size and actually eliminating one bedroom, I think what we've ended up with accomplishes a number of goals. The first is that I believe it satisfies our joint, but particularly your requirements concerning mass and lot coverage, and I think we end up with a better house, so I appreciate that being directed there, and I want to get into the details of that in just a minute. Hope you all have had a chance to look at what we submitted last week and to see the list of changes we've made in the last couple of weeks. And I want to get into the specifics of those. Before we do so, I've got sort of two housekeeping items, more of a housekeeping nature. These, because of all the changes we made, the streetscape was not ready last week, so I'm presenting it here. This is something that you had asked for a few meetings ago. We presented it last week. It really hasn't changed, except it reflects the very, from a streetscape standpoint, minor changes made due to changes shape of the house and slight location of the house. And it's also certified because it was not certified before. So I've got 5 copies for you there. This is what it looks like. This is the house in question. You can see it maybe better as it comes around closer to you. And I'll discuss the changes and how it has affected mass as we get into this a little bit. The second minor issue is we had talked about tree height. Again, talking about the screening, I stated last week that trees in the front were 15 feet or so. On the back, we're 18 to 20 feet. I think, Mr. Chairman, you pointed out that the site plan had some lower indications of trees being lower. Went back to the site. I was confident in the trees are very tall. We actually measured the trees, and so the site plan you have reflects their accurate height or understates them. In every case, the trees are actually taller than what I had stated. So I just wanted to clarify that, and the site plan now has been corrected to reflect that. Regarding the actual specific changes, let me also, I think what will be most helpful, I guess I would call this a illustrative lot coverage site plan, because it's sort of more, it's a little easier to look at than an actual official site plan. You have the official site plan. But this can, I can quickly walk you through the changes that we made. The first is that we relocated and we reversed the house. So instead of the garage being on the left as you face the house where it was, we have now placed it on the right. And what this has allowed us to do is it allows us to use the existing curb cut, which is to the extreme right of the lot. Before, we were entering closer to the center of the lot, and the result was that in order to turn and navigate and get into the garage, you ended up with an awful lot more driveway. So this is a very efficient driveway, reducing pea stone and increasing grass. In addition, and I'll speak to it in just a second, we reduced the size of this house. We eliminated one bedroom, and that had another benefit because it reduced the requirement of on-site parking by one car. So this satisfies the requirement, but it was able for us to reduce the pea stone even further. I think it's 40% less driveway than when we last met. So we thought that was a big improvement. We also have reduced a lot of the rear patio area from what you saw last, including this covered area. This is a flat roof covered area extending off the back corner of the house, and we pulled that back a couple of feet. We reduced the pool size from 18 and 40 feet to 16 and 38 feet, and we reduced the pool house to 15 by 24. So we basically have tackled everything at our disposal to reduce the lot coverage and increase the amount of grass. And I think that the result is very pleasing. I think the house sits very nicely on the lot. There's plenty of room for all the structures to breathe, and there's quite a lot of grass. So we were very pleased with that. And one of those features is also the house itself has reduced in size, so it too helps with lot coverage. Concerning the house and concerning mass, I know we had tackled mass. We lowered our roof line. We shrunk the house left to right. We've done that some more. So the roof line has stayed the same because it's 26 feet, 11 inches. It's about as low as we can get this roof. But we had lopped off 7 feet off the front of the house. We have removed another 2 feet. So presenting to the street is 9 feet less than where we began. And maybe bigger impact is we actually took 8 feet off the back of the house. The result of that was a total reduction of 413 square feet from when we were last here. So we're now at 3,190 feet. It's 442 feet below what is the allowable square footage amount, and I think it can, addresses the massing of this house quite considerably. So hopefully, and let me turn to the architecture. The architecture has basically remained the same. It's a cedar shingle house, roof and siding, white trim. This just reflects the fact that now the garage is on the right-hand side. It's smaller in front, it's smaller in back. There are two architectural features I'd love to get some feedback from you on. I know when we were last here, there was a very brief discussion concerning the eyebrow. The rendering, unfortunately, does not do justice to the eyebrow. If you, just because of the way I know he struggled a great deal with trying to get that looking the way it would really look. If you look at the elevation of the house, which you have, it shows the eyebrow as more closely to the way it would actually look. So we think it's a nice architectural detail, but if it's the preference of the board for us to eliminate that, we would be happy to do so. And similarly, over the front entrance, there are 3 windows that have diamond panes in them. There was some discussion at our last meeting about that. This is in a 2-story foyer, so having double hung windows there that are inaccessible did not seem to make as much sense to us. So again, we believe that the diamond-shaped windows are a nice architectural detail that are appropriate. But again, if the board should believe that it would be better to have double-hung windows, we would be happy to do so. So those are the changes we made. We're quite pleased about it. We're excited about the house, and happy to answer any questions you have.
Did your chimney stay the same? It's not shown really on.
Yes, it is.
Same
Chimney's the
position
yep.
chimneys?
Same position, same style, same detail.
I don't think we had an issue so much with the architecture. I think pretty much each board member had challenges with overall volume, or the appearance of such on the lot, and how it was basically occupying more lot coverage than maybe it should. We appreciate some of the reductions that you put into play. I think it is a major improvement. I think taking the driveway, moving it to the other side to reduce a lot of the pavement from the parcel will take away from the harshness of the front facade. It softens a little bit more when you have more greenery, more lawn frontage. I think you did a successful job in reducing and bringing a plan that, I mean, sizes, it is what it is, but at least you gave it a visual streetscape that I think will be a better impact than what it looked like before. Brian?
Yeah, I want to commend you for keeping reducing and reducing and reducing.
Thank you, we appreciate it. It
I
was
have no
painful at
issues
times,
with
but I think it was a good process.
the architecture, and I think the diamond windows and the eyebrow are both appropriate for the house.
Esther?
I will ditto my colleagues and say thank you very much, because I think it is a far more successful house that will really fit in very, very nicely to Corrigan Street, and changing the driveway and accessing it using the curb cut makes an enormous amount of sense. The whole feeling of the house, the scale, the proportions, the mass of it really is far more appropriate for the street. So thank you very much. And the way you presented this is extremely helpful, so I do appreciate it.
Jeff?
I concur. In fact, the last 2 cases have been a testament to the dialogue and the benefit that this process can have. So painful as it might be from time to time, I appreciate it, I'm sure.
No, it was a good exchange, and I was quite pleasantly surprised with how much we were able to do, and still be very pleased and excited about the house we're building.
Any public comment on the application? Please step forward. You would have to step forward.
Can we just see the streetscape when the camera see it?
Sure. Oh, of course.
Please? And your house is the brown one?
Yes. They want us to do 4
Yeah.
houses on each side.
Okay, thank you.
And I don't know if you want to see.
Sure.
All right.
Mr. Styler really likes to have this on his tape.
I can't believe it, I can't video it, but I may hold it still.
I'm sorry.
Because it's a record, it's nice to have. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if I could comment, but I'd appreciate that being done all the time, because when I look back or sit in the audience, often we can't see what's being presented, so it's.
We try, but,
Often it's not as easy to see, but those are nice. So thank you.
Any public comment? Anything further from the board? Christine, you did not have the opportunity to speak. Any comment about the application? No?
They've done a good job.
Okay. In that case, I'm sifting through a lot of this stuff, and I'm going to ask that you take some of it back.
Okay, sure. Mr. Chairman, can I ask you another question of the board?
Okay?
At the risk. We talked about these arborvitaes. They're very tall all the way around. I think it's great screening. Across the front, and I think, Jeff, you had mentioned even sun being blocked or whatever. This is a dark area along the street. Personally, I mean, we're prepared to leave the arborvitaes across the front, and where there are gaps, we would fill them in so it's a steady line. They're 15, 16 feet tall. We actually think that it would be a better presentation and fit in better with the neighborhood and the streetscape to remove the front arborvitaes and replace it with a privet hedge. But again, that's, you know, if it's a desire of the board to have the arborvitaes, we are
remove those
totally.
beautiful arborvitae?
Excuse me?
Can remove those beautiful what would you do? Would you repurpose them, or you?
I think we could repurpose them as best we could. There's not a lot of place to put them because we are already so thoroughly screened. There's a town sump back here, and there's a little bit of a gap, and so we could reuse as best we could. But it's really just a matter of.
Why don't you ask your neighbors and see if they would, if you're going to throw them? I would hate for those to be wasted.
Oh, you mean if they could be used? We're, you know, I hate to cut down any tree personally, but I think it would improve the presentation, but I wanted to, I don't want to, we wouldn't want to do that without your approval.
Board member, you have the concerns about the arborvitaes that are currently on the front facade being replaced with privet.
No, I think we should try to see more houses and not try to hide them.
I agree.
think
Disagree.
That helps the
I agree.
streetscape.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
So
Do we need to
you
submit
said we
anything
keep the
different
arborvitae or
for that
not?
technically?
No,
I think so.
I'd like to see more of the house.
I would too.
Now that the house is
It's a pretty
more,
house.
more
We're-
presentable,
we're happy to have it
I think that
shown.
to see that, quite frankly, that is what I recall Corrigan Street looking like. You were able to see your homes.
Right, right.
It was a community that you drive through, you walk through, and it was a vista that, quite frankly, was more inviting. We're losing that in the village. We're losing it too quickly with behind hedges. And I think that if you can show them, if you want to repurpose either the trees or even see if any individual in the community would be useful,
Happy to do that.
definitely repurpose them.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve the application of Drew Schuttinger at 166 Corrigan Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Should we give him some of those back?
Didn't take a lot.
Give them to me and I'll hand them to you. Excuse me.
Just need, wait a minute, do I have
We'll
one
do with
streetscape?
it.
Can you give me a
Give
streetscape
one
there?
streetscape back.
Thank you. Next application, please.
Next application is Gail Belva, 74 Post Lane. I'm going to recuse myself on this because I offered some guidance to Ms. Belva.
Were you financially involved in the transaction?
No.
What's that?
Were you financially,
No, not at all.
do you feel you can be, you could be objective and, I mean, it's your discretion.
Absolutely.
It's not necessarily unless there's a financial gain or you feel you can't be objective in the application.
I could be very objective.
Your discretion.
Brian's discretion.
Fine. I think it's much improved.
Doesn't sound like you can be objective there, Brian. There you go.
Night and day.
Name for the record, and if you could just go over what those changes have been.
Mike Chiaffi for 74 Post Lane, Gail Belva.
Okay?
And we were here last week, and we got your comments. We made a lot of changes on this newer design. Some of the comments on the front elevation, the front of the house, were the higher gables. What we did is we removed those gables and we created hip roofs on the left and right side. Also, it was said that it felt a little overpowering, the front of the home. So by removing the gables, we got rid of that tower feel, and we also reduced the dormer by about, I guess, 8 or 9 inches on the right and left side, and we also brought the top down. Before it matched the flat part of that roof, we brought it down a little bit from there. And you can see it a little bit better from the right and the left rendering, which follow that front one.
So you get rid of that rear, that wing in the rear as well. So they're both dormers, the dormer in the rear was removed as well?
Correct.
Created a complete hip?
Oh, no,
Front door-
we're gonna get to that one.
Okay.
Yeah. That was the front changes that we made. On the left side of the home, which you'll see on page 3, we got rid of that swooped roof over the side door, and we put a small shed there with corbels. And we also enlarged the base of the chimney instead of just having that 2-foot stack going straight up. On the right side, there were no changes. There was nothing mentioned or anything about that. It's kind of simple. In the back, there were several comments about that. The windows, we had at different levels because in the master bedroom, there is a step up to a small platform. But we did level off the top of those windows. We also, the center window, we brought that one up because it was lower and it didn't kind of match up with the elevation on the right and left. We left the elliptical in there, and I believe someone mentioned whether that was appropriate or not, or needed. And the one behind that shows it with a square window. We also took the dormer up above. We reduced it by a foot on the left and right side, and we lowered it to bring it to a full hip roof. And we brought the egress windows dead center versus the left and right. On the following pages, you can see another rendering showing the square window, and Gail would really like to have that elliptical window back there. It does a lot for the inside, the interior of the home. It's a 2-story, and it lets a lot of light in, and it's above the fireplace, and it is kind of dramatic to see it from the inside. And what else? The other changes we made previous, we lowered the rails to 2 feet, so that it's not to be like a deck. We also lowered the fireplace, bump out in the back, brought that lower. And we matched all the gutter boards, so everything is even. We don't have higher plates or lower plates, so they kind of more streamlined look.
Congratulations. This is a beautiful, beautiful house that has really changed dramatically from the original proposal. I don't have a problem with the elliptical window. It just feels graceful. The proportions are better. It's much simpler. And if the camera wants to take a look at what we're looking at now versus the original. This was the original that was proposed, and this is what we're dealing with right now. I think it will fit into the street beautifully, and I think it's extremely successful.
Brian?
I agree.
Jeff?
Yeah, it's a vast improvement. What's the side widths? I was just curious in terms of its placement on the property.
To the property line?
Yeah.
I believe we have 18 feet on, actually, we shifted it to give her a little bit more room on the driveway side. So I think we have maybe 18 on one side, 21 on the other.
Such an improvement.
Yeah.
Christine?
It's such an improvement. It's got a different house. It's a gracious, lovely house.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wyatt?
Yeah, that's what to say. I mean, from front to rear, it's just every level was cleaned.
This time I went by facial expression. I looked at your face this time, and it wasn't like, I was like, oh, I think we're in.
I really do that?
Yeah.
I gotta do a better job. I'm actually a very good poker player. Any public comment? Did a great job. Congratulations.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve the application of Gail Belver at 74 Post Lane.
Second,
All-
all in favor, aye.
Aye.
With the elliptical window.
Thank you.
With the elliptical window.
Enjoy.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck. Next application, please.
Next application is Louise Gold, 104 Lewis Street, to demolish a dwelling.
There was a previous adjournment grant.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's specified as to what date.
Sorry?
This is still a real estate issue, Lewis Street, isn't it?
I have no idea, but it's,
So satisfying.
that applicant's not here and the application is still in adjournment. Next application, please.
Next application, Circe and Leslie Dryden, 95 Meeting House. 193 Meeting.
Good evening. My name is Fred Weber. I'm the architect representing Circe and Leslie Dryden on the project at 193 Meeting House Lane. I was here at your last meeting, and there weren't a lot of comments about the architecture of the house. We were trying to keep things consistent with what was there. I think the main issue was a deck that was on the back of the house. What we've done to that deck, and rather than, the reason the deck was there for the most part is it was over a porch of a certain size, and we were just going to put a flat roof with a rail. What we've done now is brought a hip roof in from really the three open sides, which basically reduces the size of the deck. So you end up with sort of a rail, a part height rail on top of a capped wall.
What is the dimensions of the second-story deck?
The second-story deck, then, the dimension that the owner was interested in keeping really was the 6-foot depth of that deck, so they could put a chair and stretch their legs out. And then the other dimension is 17 feet, which is larger than I wanted, but it sort of is a result of bringing an even hip in on all sides.
Okay. Board members, the deck was reduced to 6 by 17. Not so much as entertainment is for leisure, and that's off the master bedroom,
It's off the
correct?
master bedroom, correct.
You have any challenges or issues with the second-story deck, privacy concerns that we normally and typically would, the reason why we would make this an application of alarm? Brian, any issues with the second-story?
No, I think putting it into the hip roof just tones it down quite a bit and makes it feel more private, and it is more private.
Esther?
I would agree.
Christine?
Yes, I agree. I looked it up.
Jeff?
I'm good with it.
Okay, did you supply new renderings showing the,
Yes. Yeah, I think I submitted
what date?
two copies. Let's see, the date was revised, that's the first floor, October 2nd.
Not
Finding
stamped.
that? I brought three copies. They said the only one and two. I brought them last week. Yeah, I think that's the cover letter right there.
The originals were never stamped.
Oh, okay.
We won't say anything about that. Building department does a wonderful job.
Okay.
Okay, any public comment on the application? Motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve the application of Circe and Leslie Dryden at 193 Meeting House Lane.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good luck.
Okay, thank you very much.
Next application, please.
Next application is Benkar Building Corp., 128 Western Prospect.
Good evening, board members. A couple things to hand out. I've given Antoinette the information on the posting and mailing. There was one set of the 8.5 by 11 in the file, but I don't know if each board member would like a copy. I have.
Sure.
The handout includes basically a 11 by 17 copy of the plans that have been in the file since we filed, and a colored rendering, and a tax map of the area, and some general information about the relative mass of this house as it relates to the one home that seems permanent, which is to the west. But I'll wait till you get that, and then I'll give you my presentation. I do have a rendering of the house that I can show to camera. And I'll just set that here for board members to see. You're ready? The property is located at 128 West Prospect Street, which has been a little bit troublesome, I think, to the village. It's a shortcut street, and the utilities own all the property across the street that will not be developed, and the subject property has a house that has been in disrepair or under construction for a number of years and was not successful. It had some interesting concepts. The house to the west is significantly stable, but the house to the east is also been vandalized and will probably be either torn down or whatever. I think it's in some kind of a problematic financial state. So that part of the village is not pretty. This is a large parcel. It's the largest parcel on West Prospect Street. It's just under 3/4 of an acre, and it's adjacent to some properties that are similar in size, and it also backs up to White Street that has large parcels. We've designed a home here that obviously is well under lot coverage and the codes that apply to it. We've tried to keep the massing of the house so that it is from the streetscape smaller than it is. It's not a small home, but it's a large property, and in the village it's a valuable property. We tried to keep the exterior uncomplicated.
Lot size in this? Just 0.7?
0.72.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a large parcel. It's the largest on that street, and actually, the last page of the colored handout shows the house to the west, which is on a lot that is 30% smaller because of the angles, and we have 124 feet of frontage, and that only has 98, so it's almost a third less, and the massing of the homes are not that different. I will get to one of the points. I have proposed a roof deck on this house, and I know it's problematic, and I know that sometimes the board has a policy where in certain situations a roof deck is allowed, and in certain situations it's not, and I don't know where the boundaries are for that. The house to the west has a roof deck, and we are hoping that the 57 feet between the two buildings and the size of the parcels and the privacy and the lack of a kind of an old school neighborhood here, my client would very much like that roof deck. It's off the master bedroom, and we're asking for that. I don't know where the tipping point is when it's okay and when it's not. The board has to be
Privacy.
used.
Privacy.
But I mean, when it's a
Well, it's the applicant's responsibility to present before this board that you adding a second-story deck to this particular project doesn't in any way evade or cause an issue of privacy to your neighbors.
Okay.
So that's your process. You would have to present before this board and show us either an illustration or show us an example, or show us some screening,
Right.
or some type
We
of
did.
screening between the two parcels, line of sight, some format that will show and indicate that this won't be an issue.
I mean, we've, by virtue of some of the handouts, we've shown there's about 58 feet between the buildings. We have indicated on the site plan that we would provide arborvitae screening, tall screening, as tall as it needs to be. And, you know, once you get into these 3/4 acre lots, it's, you know, I know on 1/4 acre lots and I know on 1/2 acre lots, it's not appropriate, but we're not into a density issue here, and it's a beautiful, open lot, and it's off the master bedroom, and we are asking this board to consider where is the tipping point of when this is appropriate, and I wouldn't ask you if I didn't feel that it was appropriate. I've been before this board for 25 years, and I am asking whether you feel it's appropriate.
Why such a substantial deck for just the bedroom?
Well, it's a result of the covered porch down below.
Okay.
I could bring the railing into the middle of the deck and make it smaller, but we're also trying to do kind of correct architecture here, and it's a result of the size of the porch down below. It's 12 feet by 20 feet. We had it a little deeper than that, but it, you know, it's not meant to be an entertainment area, and I know there's concern on the board's part of the neighbor's privacy. I don't know if there's representatives of the neighbor to the west here tonight or not.
Before we get to the issue of the deck,
Yeah, I was getting also to the front gables. They just seem really narrow and very sharp. Is there any reason why in design that they weren't a little more,
Well,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
it's not a 4-square house by any means.
Okay.
And they are, there's not a lot of intention there to make them sharp or not sharp. I've designed a lot of homes, and I'm comfortable with the design of the house. I don't know if the board is.
Brian, the front gables.
I think the more of the concern I have is that it's reading very much like a 3-story house.
absolutely.
Because of the dormer on the, you know,
Okay.
on the roof. And I think that the severe gables don't help that at all. And, you know, I'm concerned about the mass of this house on this street because it is the largest lot, and I know it meets all the zoning and it's smaller than it needs to be, but, you know, the house shown next to it to the west is a rather large house for this neighborhood, and I'm seeing this that's, you know, feeling twice as the size of it. And you can tell that the first floor, what are the ceiling heights on the first floor? They look tremendous.
10 feet.
They're only 10?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because your columns are so,
For 30 foot 6 inches, I believe, on the height.
yeah, but I think the
You're
gables are.
31.6 on the height.
Oh, I'm sorry, 31.6.
And I would agree with Brian that the gables feel very severe. They're very sharp, they're very angled, and that in combination with the dormers on the 3rd floor, it feels and reads like a 3-story house, and it feels absolutely too busy, too big in relation to the other houses on the street. The most successful elevations, in my opinion, are actually the west and the east, which are quieter, simpler. They feel more harmonious with the neighborhood. I really have an issue with the front elevation.
So what do you think, Brian? Reducing the roof, the dormer at the rear, or maybe breaking in it, showing the two, rather than one single,
Yeah, something.
breaking the overall mass of the 3rd-story dormer?
That would help.
It's just a 2-foot high dormer. I don't know how, I understand commentary, and I think I'm pretty objective in how I hear things, but I don't quite understand 3 stories as, if the dormer weren't there, would you still feel that it's a 3-story home?
No, I think, Mike, what's happening is you have all these horizontals going across, and because that dormer's so big, it's a big horizontal, and there are 3 of them. and then the roof, and then the ridge. So
No, 3 dormers, what do you mean? I'm sorry.
there are 3 E blinds. You have one on your front porch, then you have one at the second floor, then you have the dormer, then you have your ridge. So you're introducing all these horizontal lines stepping up, and I
I
think,
mean, if we, on the rear elevation, you can see that we just popped up the center dormer, and we didn't carry the fascia line through. Do you feel that that view is less of a concern in terms of?
no.
Yeah, but even that step up is reduced from the, and I know what you're saying, the
Start up.
linear.
I mean, I could eliminate the dormer altogether.
That would be very helpful.
That would help.
I'd be, we could just go with a straight fascia across a 9-foot-high second-floor plate.
It really helps, but I think you really have to reduce the severity of the gables because they just feel really
Angled.
intense. And in relationship, the gables, from the house to the garage, just feels simple and clean.
Right.
It just.
We're always kind of hamstrung by the 16 feet with the garage, but I appreciate that the garage is lower. If I lower the front gables, well, the other thing, we're sort of talking to one side of the board. I don't know if you'd like
We're
to
going further, move forward.
get that and then.
Christine, any comments?
No, I agree. I think it reads like a 3-story house.
Not that I'm going to get any
Jeff?
help there.
Jeff, you wanted to hear it, so there you go, Jeff.
Exactly, and as some of the other folks said, it's
Broke them
painful,
down.
but at the end, the resolution
Right.
works out well for
Right.
everybody concerned.
I agree with you.
And I think Esther said it very well, too big, too busy, looks like 3 floors to me. I drive this street every day, I live on Halsey Street.
Yeah.
Fixing up, there's a cinder block, it looks like a bunker.
Yes.
Right now. So
Yeah.
anything is an improvement. On the other hand, this house juxtaposed to the other houses, about 2 or 3 houses to the west, you got some simple 4-square, you have a simple 4-square.
It's next door, actually.
Well, actually, I think, well, in any event, there's some.
One elevation shows you to scale the relationship of the 2 homes
Well,
side by
there's,
side.
I'm sorry, to the east. To the east, you've got the derelict house that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Then I think there's a 4-square, and then there's something else, but
Tarantino,
it's all
I've
relatively
worked on all of those
simple.
homes.
And so, this looks very busy by comparison to those houses. And we approved, a few sessions ago, a house about 3 houses to the west, which is a very nice structure and is very toned down. And so I guess what we're saying now that you've asked is if you could just tone it down, reduce it, and make it look more like a 2-story.
The 2 lots to the east are only 68 feet wide, so I'm not sure if we're talking about the same parcels. They're only.
You and I may not be talking, but what I'm talking.
You're specifically mentioning them, so I
Right,
just
so
want to
I'm
clarify
talking about
that.
this picture, in my mind, vis-à-vis the streetscape. If you want us to ask you to do a whole streetscape, we're not asking you to do that at this point, but.
No.
So, well, let's
I
not
just wanted to make sure that
big
I
issues.
understood the point you were making. That's
I'm
all.
I'm making,
I think-
I'm making a general comment.
So I think overall, I think we were all pretty much on the same same thinking with regards to the 3rd story, the dormer there. If it can be reduced anywhere where you can actually widen the front gables to give it a little more symmetry, especially in connection with the garage where you have a more traditional gable, whereas on this parcel that you're proposing now, it's a little more sharp, it's a little more defined. If there's a way to widen that, I don't know if that means you have to bring the roof line up to make it wider, or.
Right. Well,
that
what
means-
tends to happen is that when you have, say, a 22-foot left and right gable,
Mhm.
if you want 2 windows in the center of that room, that's where those sharper gables come from, because if you widen the gables and narrow the center, then, there's a balance that we have to obviously address that has to do with the function of the interior of the house versus the exterior. And possibly that's where the 4-square house comes from. You just have, it's a 2-story colonial, basically, and you can put the windows wherever you want. So I will address the pitch of the front gables, and run the risk of Harry and asking again about the back roof deck.
Okay. Again, it's all in your presentation. I understand your tree line. Do you have a height on the trees that you're
Whatever
proposing?
the board would like.
Do you have a line of sight on what will be impacted based on the use of the second story deck, and how will it impact your neighbor?
Well,
Who
I
is the
did-
most
I
impacted?
did a composite site plan, I don't know if you see, of how the two houses relate to each other. In terms of, we set this house back an extra 10 feet from the street because we have the property to do it. It moves those roof decks further skewed from each other from a front to back relationship, and they're also 57 or 58.
So your closest point to your neighboring lot, what is the distance between the two? And what are you're
58
looking?
feet between the two structures.
Okay, so what you're looking at is a garage based on what your survey,
Yes.
your site
Yep.
plan is showing. So your second story deck is really looking into your neighbor's garage, not a
Correct.
swimming pool. I don't have an issue with that. Board members,
I'm fine with it.
Esther,
It's a big enough property.
I would agree.
Christine.
No, I think it's a big enough property that it's okay.
Property's large enough, and you're
Yeah.
looking at a garage. If you want to look at a garage,
Now,
yes.
now, in terms of the front gables, you're saying you have significant concern with the steepness of the gables in the front.
Well, I don't think any of us said a significant concern. The question is, how is that gonna read now that you don't have, that dormer? So now more, I think more
I'd be
focal
willing to-
and more,
I'd be- you
and
know,
it will be
I try
highlighted
to-
even more so once that's been removed, because now there'll be nothing other than those two front gables shown on.
Do you feel that rather than me have to, like, really redesign the interiors of this home, that if that third-story dormer were gone, does that alleviate the concerns of the board?
I think we'd have to see it, but
Well, I mean,
maybe you
kind
could,
of-
maybe you could
I'm trying.
delineate,
See, I like
like the
that. So-
top of the peak or something.
With it, yeah.
You know,
Sure, could you turn that around and so?
Put some corbelling in or something like
And
that
I
on a
just-
horizontal
I
line.
just took out the third.
I can definitely change the emphasis of those gables with some corbelling and pack
I think that would,
That would be
that would
really-
break down that,
That,
Just slow it
the
down a
severity
little
of it,
bit.
exactly.
You know, we sometimes,
So instead of the continuous, you have there's a break.
you get another horizontal line in
that,
there,
exactly.
perhaps.
Yeah, but you took away the one in the middle, so that kind of breaks them down.
We're all thinking on the same lines.
I'm sorry?
We're all thinking on the same lines.
Okay.
You know, what I just try to do is not come back with a guessing game, that's all. And you understand what I'm asking, I'm trying to see if there's a prescriptive,
And what we're trying to not to do is to give you false, we don't want to say,
Right.
well, that's it. Then you come back before us and say, oh my God, we
Right.
just changed everything. It looks
right,
horrible.
right.
Not that that's the case, but what happens is if we give such a definitive answer
Prescriptive,
tonight, you're expecting that, and you're coming back with
Right.
an expectation that this board's just going to approve.
Does it matter to the board if there were any change in coloration on the exterior? Do you prefer the natural cedar which we presented versus the white, which has gotten sort of prevalent in the village? I mean, is there anything on that you feel that
I
you
particularly
prefer?
like the white, to be honest with you. That's just me
Do you
personally. I
like
think
this
it-
house any better
it's-
than the one I presented?
I don't like is the ABCs in the application. I think you still have an issue with the third story. I do like the break in all of the cedar shingle white trim homes that are coming up in Southampton Village. It's just not becoming unique. So I'm definitely in favor in changing from
So-
cedar to white, or to even bleached, or another. I don't know
But I
about you.
think in terms of the structural part that I have to present to you, the issue was the third-story dormer, if we call it that, which I'm willing to call it that. It's not a third story, but the gables could also be softened by perhaps some type of a horizontal change in the upper third above the second-story windows with some type of corbelling and more detail, and give the house a little bit more of a horizontal line, and we can see how that is received by the board at the next meeting.
And I would also like to see detail on the windows, because I don't really get a sense of how these windows are framed. They don't seem substantial enough, and maybe it's just the rendering, so I'd like some detail on the windows.
Well,
What do you mean by substantial?
Do the 1/8-inch scale, I mean, do the 11 by
Facing.
17 drawings show you any better what the windows? There's nothing different or reinventing the wheel about the windows on this house. Maybe the rendering confuses that a little bit.
Yeah.
But there's a...
Yeah, there's nice casing.
Yeah, that's fine.
And it's
It
got
just doesn't show on the color rendering. Yeah, that's
Right.
fine then.
There's just a starred
Yeah,
sill.
it's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Any public comment? Anything further from the applicant?
No, thank you.
Anything further from the board?
Is he asking us to adjourn?
I am asking you to
Motion to
adjourn.
approve applicant's
Yes.
request to adjourn until
I
next
make a
meeting.
motion that we approve the applicant Ben Carr Building Corporation on West Prospect Street request to adjourn to our next meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much.
Next application, the applicant's, final application, the applicant's request to adjourn until the 26th. Motion to approve applicant's request to adjourn until the...
Make a motion that we approve the applicant Robert Barron on Wicker Pog Road's request to adjourn to our next meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes, September 28th, all members
I
present.
thought we approved those, Kate.
You sure we didn't approve those at the last meeting?
What,
Well, there was a,
what, Baron?
I just had them up. I didn't have that they were approved.
The minutes. What do I do?
Oh, I see what you're saying. You know what, you're right, I skipped a date. October, no, that was the last meeting, Curtis.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion to, all board members had the opportunity to review the minutes.
Yes.
Questions, comments, concerns, issues, or changes? Motion to approve the minutes from September 28th,
I
2015.
make a motion that we approve the minutes from September 28th, 2015.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And motion to close this evening's meeting.
I make a motion that we close the meeting of the Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation on October 13th, 2015.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.